Good morning, I'm George Coll. Thanks for coming by my studio, hopefully one more time. This week, part 1, part 2, and 3, we're going to be working on larger canvas. So this is an 18 by 30. So if larger canvases have presented difficulties for you, this might be a good week for you to tune in and see how we lay these out. This first part is block in. And tomorrow would be balance, then we'll do all the final detail on the third day. I won't be able to do every brush stroke on camera because of the size of this canvas, but hopefully you can fill in the blanks by my explanation as I go along. Okay, so again I want to emphasize I'm only one part of your continuing progress to getting good as a painter. What I provide is consistent lessons every week, and that is so important to get in front of your canvas and start putting paint on it. Okay, so I give you good references, all that kind of stuff, and I paint along. You can paint along with me. 2, get outside and paint whenever you can and get good critiques from people that know what they're doing and don't discourage you. Okay. So, subscribe to this station. I need subscribers. I'd really appreciate it. And with that, let's go ahead and get started with this week's painting. Thanks for coming by. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for tuning in on YouTube, and thank you for my Zoomers here that are on Zoom. I'm George Coll, and I'm here in Loveland, Colorado, starting a 3-part series for painting larger paintings. This is an 18 by 30, I believe. A little bit of an odd shape. I think my students on Zoom are doing 18 by 24s, or they're doing more rectangles, and I understand that. So I have a rectangle referenced below. I have a more of a stretched out one on top. As I was cutting up my canvas, this is canvas on Gatorboard, I just couldn't lop off that nice long piece, and I thought, what if I just make it longer and see what happens? So that's the story behind the longer one. So today is block-in day. That's the first part of a 3-part series, and what that means is that we're going to figure out with a rough drawing where these shapes are going to be, and then put in some value color. Now, heads up, I take a lot of pride in doing stroke by stroke for every class, every weekly class. I have 3 classes for one painting. That will not happen with this because of the size of it. So I might have to be doing some of these repetitive strokes not on camera, but I'll be explaining to you as I go along so it isn't too much of a mystery of what I've done off camera. If that proves to be too much, I just might run this into next week. Excuse me with that. Thank you, Denise. So I'm getting some text there. All right, so with that, from my overhead you can see my 10, 8, 4, 2. And so what I'm going to do is start with a drawing brush. Let me see if I can find a good stubby drawing brush. Don't have to be real pretty to draw these things out. And I want to choose something that I can get some lines with. And what I've chosen is an old bright that's all stubby now. And I'm going to be mixing up my colors with that. I'm going to start with some ultra blue burnt sienna. Again, ultra blue, burnt sienna, white. I made up a pretty good pile because there's a lot of painting. So Ralph, what size are you painting on today?
Let's go back between 16 by 20 and 12 by 24. So I think I'm going to do the 12 by 24.
All right.
So make it long as, not as big as yours by any means.
That's what I'm going to do too, George, 12 by 24.
Sounds good, you guys. And so the first thing I'm going to try to figure out is my skyline. I'm going to it's way above center, so I'm going to put it up here about in the last third or fourth of the painting. That first line wasn't too correct, so I thought I'd take it up even higher. So that's my first line. And as you can see from the reference, there's a break in the horizon. And I'm trying to figure out where these things are going to be, and I think I put that too far to one side. And again, what I'm looking for now are foundation lines. And foundation lines are something we can build from. And now I know there's going to be some sort of a stream action going up in here. And I want to try to get some basic lines in. Very loose, very rough. I have a lot of turp in this mixture, so it's going to be easy to erase and move around. So I think this line looks good. And I want to put, it's like a triangle here with this cliff. So I'm going to take it from here and make this this triangle area. Okay? And it's divided into darks and lights, and that's what that is. And then with that, there is some indication that the stream is up in here, here, short jog, down here, and then out to this neighborhood out here. I have, there's the foreground here is the standing on top of the cliff. This is the road from Capitol Reef National Park to Hanksville, Utah. And I stopped there and I go, whoa, that is a nice reference. Now, I think the first thing that comes to mind when you look at a reference like this, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. And what this whole thing with plein air painting or studio painting and doing landscapes is how to simplify it to lay it out. So that's what I'm working on with you all today, okay? So this is river, and now I have these other darks coming off of here. These are hills that are darks. And these are the big dark boys here. Now, there's some nice dark banks here. So as you can see, I'm trying to pick off the easy stuff that really stands out. So I'm looking for those objects that are going to be good anchors to lay this out. So I see these nice dark banks here, and so I will do that. And there's a dark bank. And then there is another dark bank. And then there's a real long bank down here somewhere. And he's going to be an anchor for me. And this is a good time to go, oh my goodness, that's a lot of canvas and a lot of acreage. So I'm going to stand back and take a look to see if my proportions are looking halfway decent. When I stand back, what I'm worried about is a weak area, and that's this area from here to here. Right now it's bank. So I want to figure out how to make that stronger. even with the students here that are working on rectangles, you may have the same problem too. Maybe not as great as I, but you might have that problem. So I'm going to start thinking about ways to solve that. And I'm going to redefine my river a little bit. And redesign it here and make it bigger. River, thin river, lost river, can't see it, and then river, larger. So what I'm doing here is trying to figure out how I'm going to build around this area. So with that, I think what I'm going to do is make an area here and use these juniper or whatever these scrubby bushes are, and that's what I'm going to be using here. And then I'll be working on some sort of a, so this helps, I think, putting this other dark bushes or something like that in here. Now, what I see here is some darks coming in here. And again, I'm still looking for anchors, how I can get this thing all tied together. And as I step back, this helps, to fill in this area here, but I also have another trouble area here. So what I'm going to do is make some design elements in here. Let's see if I can play with this river a little bit. I'll jog it in and I'll jog it out. Jog it in, jog it out, take it into this area, out and in. Here, I'll take it in, you can't see it back there. And I'll make it a little elbow out in here that you can see. I think there's a horizon change here. And what I want to do is make some cloud designs up here, and probably have more cloud on this side, less here, to balance out, because I have a lot going on here, and I'll make some clouds out in this area. More clouds, less cloud. You're saying, that's not in the reference, and I know. We start with the reference, we add a few things when we need it. All right, I still have this to work out, and then I'm going to start working over here. Alrighty, so let's see here. We've got this dark going here, this guy coming over here. More darks over here, and more kind of a, it's like a second bank. So I'm going to use this thing called a second bank, and like this, when it's in flood, it uses this area. Then I'm going to, with that, put some more of these juniper bushes, or whatever these scrubby creosote type bushes are, in this area, and that helps with that design. Listening to my brush on here, I'm not painting on stretch canvas, I'm painting on gator board, which I like because I can do a lot of pressing hard, and these are like super hard brushes, and I don't puncture my canvas. I've done that many a time, and I had to come and figure out ways to patch good paintings that I didn't want to throw in the scrap pile because I had a puncture to it. All right, so up here, we're going to have a dark here, and a dark here. This is all pretty dark. And then we're going to put some dark shadows in here. So we're going to put shadow. Here's an example of a shadow. And then we have this beautiful green that we're going to put in here. This is the green design. It's going to go up in here. So this is going to be the green design here. Now that may look really complicated to you, but it makes some sense to me. And if somebody looked at yours, you'd probably say, that looks kind of complicated, and what the heck's all that mean? Lines can only tell us so much. That's why we have to go on to the next step here shortly and get some value in here. Does anybody have any questions before I go any farther here?
George,
Yes, Anthony? Yes.
where is this located again?
Between
Where
Capitol,
is this located?
going east out of Capitol Reef National Park to Hanksville, Utah.
Okay, I know where it's at then. Capitol Reef's a very important geologic structure.
And why is that?
Well, its age, it's a 560 million year old reef, and kind of a big timeline for the meteor strikes that have happened over the years.
Really? That's right, you're a big meteor guy.
Hey, that asteroid is supposed to be coming in today. It's supposed to pass close to Earth.
How close?
Between the Earth and the Moon,
Oh, really? That's close.
plenty close.
How big is it?
It's about 5 city blocks in size. There's a faint possibility, although it's very faint, that it's going to just pass by the Earth and change the trajectory enough that it'll become a temporary moon of the Earth.
Wow.
Or it could land in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Change the whole entire,
We won't-
change the whole outcome of everything.
Yes, we won't have to worry about the outcome of this election. All right, moving on, and thank you for that, Anthony.
Is this
Sure, bye.
Next thing I want to do is start working on some of these darks. So let's get some ultra blue, burnt sienna, a little viridian. I'm going to start acting some white in there. And some red. So it's like a purple. As I recall, this geologically rich area, it's just so strikingly different than the rest of the United States. It's just fascinating, and to drive through it is just amazing. Anyway, I've mixed this ultra blue, burnt sienna, a little bit of viridian and alizarin, and I'm just making some ideas of where these darks are going to be. I think then I'm going to put this up here. And that's enough for now. I'm going to add some more lightener to that mixture and then put this connector between it. Added some white and a little gray. I'm going to use some of that same color for my shadow areas and put this in here. And then there is another here. And I'm going to level these off a little bit. And then there's, I may have put too many of these in here. But what you can see me doing is working on my anchors. I'll soon find out if I'm in the wrong place or not. And I'm putting the paint on thin enough and that I can move things around. Erase it, move it. I add a little red Viridian and green Viridian and a little ultra blue, and I'm working on my shadows now. And I don't think I've made these tall enough, so I'm going to bring these up even more. And that has a better effect to it. Okay, now I want to make sure I have my values here. Let me just emphasize this a little bit more. And put in some of these darks in a few places. All right. I'm going to use a scraper right now to move some of this product over to the side. Maybe I can pick it up with this first palette knife. I don't have too much left, but I'll see if I can save it. Well, let me see if I can get some sort of an interesting looking green going on this thing. And I might change my brush because I've got so much residue in this number 12. See if I can get another big one out of my stock here that isn't too well screwed up. And I found this, looks like a 12. It's pretty big. It's a little stiff, but I'm going to do some olive and some Shiva and some cad yellow light. Shiva. You can make Shiva by using cad yellow light and permanent green. And I want to make some sort of a brightness along this river. I'm going to add some turp to that because I'm putting it in thin. And that should help us along here. And I'll scatter a little of that around here and in a few other places as well. I better figure out where that river's going to be and define that for now. So let me get some cerulean and some Naples light. And as I see, as when you look at the reflection, you get more sky reflection here, and here you get more of that murky water color down here. So let me get some of this blue in here. So this is cerulean white. And get this in a few places. All right, let's get some yellow ochre into that mixture and give it the murky look, so I'll get some ultra blue in there. Back to yellow ochre. And we'll get that down in here. Okay, looking at our time, we've got about 15 minutes left. And so that's a cue to me. I need to block this painting in and keep the old brain moving. So now I know where my edges are going to be. And these lines are going to help me figure that out as I go. All right, let me go back to my big brushes. I'm going to add some ultra blue to this Shiva color, yellow ochre, and olive. My olive is really strong. I'm going to add some Naples to that. And now some white. And it's a very bluey green. And I'm going to start putting in some of these creosote type color bushes. Over here I think we even have some trees growing up, so I'll make them even larger. I'm going to add some more lightener to that color and go back farther. Add some of that to these areas here. So it's a combination of these greens, these Shiva type colors. and getting those in. These are going to be good anchors for me as I go along, because I need to get a lot of, I better darken this a little bit, ultra blue, yellow ochre, ultra blue. Let's get throw some viridian in there. And I'll put some on this side too, and help solve some of these problems I'm having in here. What I mean by that, remember that big triangle I was talking about? That's going to be a problem area. I'm working on how to keep some interest down in there. All right, so we're making subtle changes, and so far so good. Okay. My Zoom students, I can't stay late today. I have to leave on time. Got some stuff. Meet some people today. Alrighty. What I see down here are some lighter colors along the bank, so I'm going to throw some light Naples into that yellow ochre mixture and some turp and get these lighter colors in here. So these are like these overflow banks in the river. And I'll put some in here too. And as I go back, I'll put some in here. I think I missed a dark in here. So I mixed up some dark. Put some yellow ochre in there. And I see some right in here. And clean that out of my brush and go back to some lighter Naples stuff, and I think we need some of that in here. Not the cleanest brush I have. I have some residue from that dark I just put in. And I see some lights along here too. Now I want to go to more of a brownish red. So I had some burnt sienna. You add some white to it. It's really a beautiful color. I'm going to add a little alizarin, some turp, and we're going to get some of that in here in a very thin way. This is where big canvases, big brushes come in handy. And now I'm going to lighten that up with some Naples, some white, Naples, and white. And again, I know there's other stuff going on in there, but I just want to get a nice feeling of, better tone that down just a little bit with that. Add some green to that mixture. And that seems to serve that value better. These lights are a little too light. And I see some of that up in here. And then right above here I see a good light, so I'll use some Naples. I'm out of light, so I'll add some white to my Naples and put that in right on top of the cliffs, right in here, as we go this way. And let's see what we can do about that sky with my remaining time, which is getting shorter all the time. And I'll put this, cleaning my glass so I have a nice mixing area for my sky. So, with my big brush, I'm really trying to get as much of that warm color out of it as I can. And I have to squeeze out some more white because I used so much of it already. So what I want to do now is make a cloud design. And I hope this brush is going to be clean enough to make a new mixture. So I'm going to use some cobalt, a little bit of alizarin, a little bit of cobalt, and I'm just going to make one light purple pink for the cloud, and I'll get lights and darks in it later. It's a little bit too light or too dark. Lighten it up. There we go. Perfect. And I'll put no clouds here. And as I said, more clouds over on this side here. So that's my cloud design, and now, to be true to form, I want to try to, don't panic, we'll get all kinds of cloud shapes in there later. And I'm going to move over to more of a sky color now. So I'm going to make some cerulean and white. And hope I make enough of it. And that'll bring us to an end today. Boy, I'm working today. I'll tell you, these big ones keep me working. And there's our sky color. This is the way I get paint all over my monitor. It doesn't look like I have any paint on it, but when I turn it off, there's paint all over it. It's the sloppiest looking monitor you've ever seen. And I'm going to add a little viridian to that mixture. And put that in the lower sections. That's such a pretty blue. Adding white to viridian, just a touch of viridian. And some of that up in here. And maybe a little underneath. Maybe, maybe not. And that's how you block in a 18 by 30 in 35 minutes. Alrighty, so Zoom students, you can stay on here for a few minutes. And I want to thank my YouTube people for coming by for this. And hope you take up the challenge to not be intimidated by these bigger paintings. And give it a try. Get some number 10 and 12 brushes, if not bigger. And give it a shot. So this is block in. So we came up with lines and color values and pretty much a way to lay this thing out. And this will be our starting point here as we go forward. And of course, I've got a lot of loose ends here where I didn't finish, okay? But it's a start, and keep standing back, looking at this, and refining your shapes as you go along. Don't do detail yet. Work on values and shapes. All right, with that, thanks for coming by. Cut!